Heartwarming revelation. Abandoned at 15. I discovered an incredible life change in just 3 years. Jenna stared at the cracked sidewalk, the fading sunlight casting long shadows through the trees. At just 15, she was brighter than the gloom that surrounded her. Left behind by parents swallowed by addiction, her heart ached with a loneliness that cut deep. Life, after being tossed into the cold foster care system, felt like a heavy fog pressing down on her small Midwestern town. Yet, even amidst the chaos, a flicker of hope doused the weight of despair. Determined to rise above her circumstances, she took on odd jobs after school, babysitting for busy neighbors, walking dogs, and even cleaning houses. Each dollar earned was a step toward her dream of becoming a veterinarian. The rewarding feeling of that hard work, though solitary, lit her spirit. She worked late into the evening, the distant laughter of children calling her as she tucked herself into bed, exhausted but accomplished. Everything changed when Jenna stumbled across the local community center run by Mr. Henderson. With a warm smile and wise eyes, the Army veteran instantly recognized the spark within her. The center, alive with laughter and shouts of joy from kids of all ages, pulsed with the kind of energy Jenna longed for. As she volunteered her time, she found herself submerged in a world that celebrated her spirit. As she cared for the animals brought in by local families, a connection emerged. Each wagging tail and soft purr reminded Jenna that she mattered. But just when she thought she'd finally found her footing, the sky darkened. A funding crisis threatened to shut down the very place that had woven her back into a fabric of community. In those tense meetings, neighbors were pitted against each other over dwindling resources. Jenna watched in horror, feeling like the world she had finally joined was crumbling around her. In a last-ditch attempt, Jenna decided she had to take a stand. When she heard about the town hall meeting, her heart raced. She could feel the pulse of despair echoing in her own heart as she walked through those doors. The crowd buzzed with opinions and conflicts, a storm brewing, but she was ready. Before we continue, a voice crackled over the microphone, drawing her attention. I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps with the reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Jenna took a deep breath, stepping forward, suddenly feeling so small in that vast room. But the warmth of the community center enveloped her like a cherished blanket. She cleared her throat, her voice trembling, but steadying with each word. She shared her story, bitter and raw, about abandonment and perseverance. As she looked out at the faces, she caught glimpses of understanding, even compassion, reflecting back at her. Would they open their hearts, or would they cling to fears and prejudices? The tension snapped like a taut string, echoing in her chest. Could this one young girl's trembling voice ignite change in a community teetering on the edge? As she stepped back, the room hung heavy with uncertainty, both in her heart and the air surrounding her. Would she be enough? Jenna stood back from the microphone, heart pounding. The air around her felt electric, heavy with anticipation. Faces she recognized from the community center turned toward her, some nodding encouragingly, others with furrowed brows. Had her words reached them? Would they see her not just as a lost girl, but as part of their community, deserving of hope and support? Mr. Henderson stepped up beside her, an anchor in this storm. What Jenna shared tonight is vital for us to understand. The community center isn't just a building, it's a sanctuary for many. His voice resonated through the tension. We can't let it slip away. The murmurs intensified. A woman in the front row whispered to her neighbor, while a man at the back crossed his arms, deep in thought. Jenna could feel their doubt, but also their curiosity. She caught snippets of conversation. Can we really save it? And can we come together for this? Taking a step forward, Jenna felt a rush of boldness surge through her. Please think of the children who come here, the pets that need care. We can't let fear break us apart. Instead, Let us work together. As she spoke, a voice broke through the crowd. But how do we do that? We have no money. It was a man Jenna recognized from town, his criticism cutting through her resolve. Her heart sank, but she took a deep breath, ready to stand her ground. Not everything comes down to money, she exclaimed, her voice rising with urgency. We have each other. Look at this room. Together we can fundraise, bring community events, hold bake sales. Anything. We owe it to our kids. Her passion held the room captive, eyes widening with realization. More voices followed, each tinged with a mix of hope and skepticism. What if we organize a fundraiser? One woman suggested hesitantly. A community picnic? Another added, her enthusiasm blooming. Jenna could barely contain her excitement, but she held on to her composure. As discussions erupted, more ideas swirled around the crowd. Each suggestion breathed life back into the fading spirit of the community center. Jenna felt the warm beginnings of collective determination, as though they were uniting under one banner of hope. But then the harsh sound of a gavel echoed, snapping her out of her reverie. The mayor, a tall figure with weary eyes, stood to restore order. These are excellent suggestions, but we need a solid plan if we're to convince the town council to support this. Jenna's stomach twisted. This was it, the moment she had hoped for and dreaded. Could she be the one to lead this charge? I'll help organize it, she called out. I can coordinate the events, reach out for sponsors. I don't want this community to lose what we've built together. The crowd looked at her, many surprised by her offer. Mr. Henderson nodded, a proud smile on his face, while others started to buzz with renewed hope. Few could see it then, but Jenna stood at a crossroads, balancing an entire community on her shoulders. But who was she, really? Just a girl abandoned and alone? Or could she transform into something more, an agent of change? What if she failed? The weight of uncertainty dug heavily into her chest. As she looked at the faces around her, Jenna felt their energy surge, balancing on the precipice of something greater. Before she could lose her nerve, she stepped toward the mayor one last time. Can we form a committee tonight? Let us not let hesitation hold us back. As he pondered her proposal, an unexpected voice arose from the crowd, a booming laughter against the seriousness of the moment. All right, let us hear it. Who's in? The ripple of laughter fueled Jenna's spirit, and she could almost see the light breaking through the clouds of despair. But still, the doubt lingered, whispering its nasty questions in her ear. Just as she thought they were building momentum, the mayor raised a hand for attention once more. Seriousness etched across his face. This is a big commitment, but I'll need to know if the community is genuinely in. Could she really rally them together? As the meeting moved forward, Jenna felt the pressure building, not just in the room, but in her heart. Would they follow through? Would they believe in her and in change? As she swept her gaze across their faces, a mix of determination, skepticism, and flickers of hope, she realized it was not only about saving a building. It was about saving the connection that she had finally found. But would it be enough to turn dreams into reality? The clock was ticking, and in that moment, everything hung in the balance. What would come next as the fate of the community center wavered in the air? And would Jenna be able to harness their spirit into a movement that could truly change everything? The room buzzed with nervous excitement, a mixture of hopeful chatter and skepticism. Jenna could feel the palpable energy swirling around her. She stood in front of the crowd, heart racing. The atmosphere had transformed from doubt to possibility, but the weight of responsibility clung to her shoulders. Let us take a vote, Mr. Henderson proposed, raising his hand to gather attention. Who is willing to commit to be part of this committee? Jenna held her breath. One by one, hands began to lift. The first was a young mother whose daughter often played at the center. Then came the retired schoolteacher, who had spent countless hours tutoring the kids. Others followed until there were at least a dozen hands raised. Wow, Jenna whispered, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. A lump formed in her throat as she looked at their faces lit with hope. They were willing to stand behind her. They believed in something greater than themselves. We'll need to meet regularly, she said, her voice trembling slightly. We can brainstorm ideas for fundraising events, and I'll reach out to local businesses for sponsorships. Don't forget the bake sales. One of the older men chimed in, a grin spreading across his face. I make the best blueberry pies. Laughter spread ripple-like through the crowd, breaking the lingering tension. Jenna smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. She couldn't believe how quickly the community was rallying. Let us start with a community picnic, another voice suggested. It'll show the town how much this center means to us. Jenna nodded eagerly, writing down notes furiously on a scrap piece of paper. With each new idea echoing off the walls, she felt her doubts begin to lift. Maybe it wasn't just about funding. Maybe it was about rekindling connections, about weaving a tapestry of support and love that strengthened their community. Yet, as the laughter continued, a familiar shadow crept back into her mind. What if this burst of enthusiasm fizzled out? What if, when the excitement wore off, no one showed up to volunteer? The fear of disappointing them teased at her resolve. Okay, let us set a date for our first meeting, Mr. Henderson suggested, bringing her back to the present. How about this weekend? Jenna's heart fluttered. Yes, let us do it, she replied, still riding the wave of energy. As the crowd agreed, she felt a surge of joy. They were ready to do this together. When the meeting wrapped up, Jenna stepped down feeling lighter. The chatter around her faded into a reassuring hum. She caught Mr. Henderson's eye, and he walked over, his expression proud yet concerned. You did a remarkable job, Jenna, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. Just remember, it's okay to feel scared. It shows you care. His words resonated deeply. Jenna could feel her heart racing. But this time it was with something more than fear, it was the thrill of possibility. As she watched the last few friends leaving the center, a realization washed over her. This was more than just a fight to save a building. It was a fight for her place in this community, for the ties that bound them together. Over the next few days, Jenna worked tirelessly. She crafted flyers for the picnic, called local businesses, and spread the word about their plans. Each call, each email linked her closer to the community. Yet, amid her excitement, the shadows of doubt lingered, whispering that it might all fall apart. Finally, the day of the committee meeting arrived. As she entered the community center, a mixture of excitement and anxiety gripped her. People were trickling in, chairs scraping against the floor as they settled. Would they still feel the same sense of urgency? Would they come together as they had that first night? When everyone was seated, she looked across the room, feeling the weight of all their gazes. Are we ready to make this happen? She asked, her voice steady despite the nervous fluttering inside her. Would today be the real launch of their efforts, or just an empty promise? As hands shot up, Jenna felt a thrill. But as they began to discuss ideas, the conversation took a surprising turn. Someone voiced a challenge: what to do if the town council didn't approve their plans? That question hung heavy in the air, and Jenna wasn't prepared for it. What would she say? What if her efforts failed? Would they lose hope? In that moment, seconds felt like hours. Jenna realized she had a choice. She could either crumble under the pressure or rise to the occasion. And she wasn't a lost girl anymore. She was their voice now. Let us not wait for their approval, Jenna declared, her heart pounding in her chest. Let us show them what we can do. But the unease settled back in. She could almost hear their lingering doubts. Would they really follow her? And what would happen if this was just the beginning of their fight, rather than the end? As the meeting progressed, Jenna felt the room alive, but deep down she wondered, was the spark enough to ignite a movement? Would they stand together against all odds? Or would her dream come crashing down? The answers felt elusive, swirling just out of reach. Jenna could feel the tension rise in the room. Each face seemed to hold a spark of hope, but shadows of doubt danced in her peripheral vision. The question lingered like a heavy fog. Would they rally together? Or would her ambitious dreams dissipate into thin air? Let us brainstorm ideas for the picnic, someone suggested, breaking the tension. We can start with games for the kids. Maybe a pie-eating contest. Laughter echoed around the room, a welcome release. Ideas began to flow back to back, creating a sense of urgency and excitement. But Jenna's heart raced for a different reason. Each cheerful suggestion was met with a nod, but the unfamiliar weight of leadership pressed down on her. She thought about the town council, their skeptical looks, the dim lighting of the office where dreams sometimes disappeared. What if they dismissed their efforts? What if this eagerness turned to frustration? Let us also have a space where people can share their stories, Jenna said suddenly, trying to seize control. She felt she needed something to ground them, something that would weave their experiences into the fabric of this effort. Real stories about the center and its impact. The room quieted. She met several gazes, and she could see the wheels turning. Perhaps it was a gamble, but she had to believe in the strength of their shared history. Those stories could be proof of the center's worth. It'll remind us why we're fighting so hard. A gentle murmur of agreement flowed through the crowd, and a few began to share snippets of their own memories. The old teacher spoke up, recounting how the center had once hosted a free tutoring program that changed the lives of several kids, one, in particular, who had gone on to college. A single story turned into 20, and suddenly, they all realized how interconnected their lives really were. But the unshakable fear still nipped at her heels. Would this be enough? The laughter and smiles began to fade, replaced by an underlying uncertainty. If no one believed they could make a difference, this fight could easily lose steam. So, what happens if the council doesn't approve our plans? Jenna asked, almost a whisper, but her voice carried. She wanted to confront the elephant in the room. What if they reject our ideas? The words hung ominously until Mr. Henderson spoke up, his voice steady. We don't need their approval to show our worth. His words ignited a spark, and nods of agreement spread like wildfire. Right, Jenna chimed in. But let us have a backup plan. She felt her courage falter briefly as she thought about the enormity of funding, the logistics of organizing the event. Can we pull everything together with limited resources? The crowd murmured among themselves. Doubt began to creep into their huddled discussions. Jenna frowned, her heart pounding louder. She could sense the shift, the excitement tempered by the uncertainty of reality. What if we started small? A younger man ventured, his voice emerging with uncertainty at first but growing bolder. We can start with potlucks and free workshops. Build momentum before tackling something larger. No reason to rush. As he spoke, an idea lit inside Jenna. Yes, we can create smaller events leading up to the picnic. Local artists can hold gallery nights, people could host their own fundraisers. It builds community, showcases our talents, and generates buzz. Her new vision brightened the atmosphere again, amplified by the group's energy. Nods and chuckles returned as ideas began to bubble once more. But amidst it all, lingering questions churned in Jenna's mind. The desire to build something incredible remained, yet the possibility of facing failure haunted her. What if they succeeded in the beginning, only for it to unravel later? The fear tightened in her chest, an ever-present reminder of the stakes at hand. Just as the enthusiasm reached another peak, a profound thought crystallized inside her. She knew their mission wasn't solely about saving the center. It was about creating a lasting legacy of unity and resilience, stories that would inspire not only the members present but those who might one day walk through those doors. With a deep breath, Jenna looked around the room, meeting the gazes of her friends and neighbors. No matter what happens, we will do this together, she declared, her voice ringing with determination. But deep inside, another question brewed. Could they truly overcome the obstacles that lay ahead? Could this community redefine their path in the face of rejection? With new ideas forming and hope reignited, the challenge was only beginning. The days passed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Jenna threw herself into the planning, cooking up ideas, reaching out to neighbors, and mapping out the first few events. She could almost feel the pulse of the community around her, a rhythm that surged with each interaction. But the weight of potential failure still loomed like clouds above her. The first small event was a potluck at the community hall. The warm scent of baked goods and savory dishes wafted through the air as families trickled in, each bringing something to share. Jenna arranged tables with vibrant tablecloths, creating a cozy vibe that welcomed conversation and laughter. As people gathered, she took her usual spot near the entrance, greeting everyone with her best smile. This was a chance for solidarity, for people to reclaim the sense of belonging that had dimmed over time. She could see the nervousness in some faces, hesitant to connect, unsure if it was worth it. "Come on, everyone, grab a plate and make some new friends," she called out, her voice enthusiastic, dripping with encouragement. Laughter erupted as folks began mingling, sharing not just food but their lives. The young man who suggested starting small brought his homemade chili, proudly explaining his family recipe. An older woman chimed in with stories of how her grandmother used to add secret spices, forming a bridge of nostalgia that sparked shared joy. But as Jenna moved to the back of the room, her gaze fell on a pair of familiar faces. It was the Andersons, a family that had been critical of the Center's function in recent years, preferring to keep their distance since the council's notorious meeting. They hovered near the entrance, arms crossed and brows furrowed. Jenna took a breath. It was now or never. She approached cautiously, every step fueled by hope and a hint of trepidation. "Hi there. I'm glad you could make it," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Mrs. Anderson looked at her, her expression softening slightly. "We weren't sure about this," she admitted. "But our kids keep asking to come back." "Then why don't we bring them along?" Jenna suggested. "We miss seeing everyone's faces. It wouldn't be the same without you." The conversation unfurled, each word weaving a thread of connection. As laughter and stories danced in the room around them, Mrs. Anderson's resistant demeanor faded. It was a small victory, but milestones were all in the little moments. Jenna felt lighter as she walked away, pride swelling in her chest. But Jenna couldn't shake the nagging concern that rested in her gut. What if, despite this warmth and enthusiasm, the town council remained unyielding? What if the winds shifted, taking away their newfound connection? She felt the fragile string of hope tethered to her heart. As the evening wound down and people began to leave, those fears whispered louder. Could they sustain this momentum before the big picnic? Just as she began to speak her thoughts aloud to her closest friend, Tessa, a commotion at the other end of the hall caught their attention. Someone had begun to speak, their voice rising above the murmur. One of the quiet, less involved members had stepped forward, apparently unbidden, to share their story. Jenna's heart leaped. "I've been thinking about what this center means to us all," the man began. His nervous voice shook slightly, but conviction grew with every word he spoke. Jenna leaned in, the tense uncertainty twisting into excitement. His voice resonated with the collective fears and joys of a community that stood at a crucial turning point. She couldn't help but wonder, was this the floodgate they needed? Would his words inspire others to share, to fight, to believe in their mission? The lingering question weighed on her. Could they really come together and overcome the silent battles they had been facing? As stories began to fill the room, a new energy crackled in the air. Jenna smiled, hope resurfacing ever so slightly. But as the night wore on, she felt a familiar pang of anxiety. Everything was on the line and the clock was ticking. What foundations would they lay down for the future? Would it be enough? The challenge ahead loomed large. The next day brought a glimmer of dawn that felt more radiant than usual. The sun spilled golden light across the community hall, illuminating remnants of last night's gathering, crumpled napkins, empty food containers, and warm memories lingering like the scent of freshly baked bread. Jenna lingered over the space, savoring the echoes of laughter and connection. She arrived early, her heart still buoyed by the courage that blossomed in the stories shared. The energy from the potluck played in her mind, each anecdote a bead on a necklace of hope she'd begun to string together. As she arranged chairs for their next meeting, Jenna found herself replaying that moment of realization, the quiet man believing he could ignite change. His words weren't just spoken. They connected threads of community, reminding her that even the most silent voice could create ripples. Soon enough, members began to trickle in. Their smiles felt lighter, and conversations flowed more freely. Jenna moved among them, buoyed by the warmth of their spirits. She approached Tessa, who stood by the coffee table, pouring herself a cup. "Did you see how many people signed up for the picnic?" Jenna asked, almost breathless with excitement. "Yeah. More than we hoped for," Tessa replied, her eyes twinkling. "What if we make this a tradition? Like, a monthly gathering?" Jenna nodded, her heart racing at the thought. What if this momentary spark transformed into something enduring, a cornerstone for their community? But then, a shadow flickered across her mind. She couldn't ignore the doubts that kept lurking. "But what if the council shuts us down again?" she asked softly, the fear creeping out despite her best efforts to suppress it. Tessa's expression shifted, a serious note underlining her cheer. "Let us not think about that now. This is just the beginning," she insisted. "Let us build momentum first." With every passing minute, more voices rose in the hall, each contributing their own stories, frustrations, and dreams. And just when Jenna thought they couldn't get more vibrant, a young girl stepped forward, her small hands trembling, clutching an envelope. The room quieted, and Jenna's heart skipped. The girl took a deep breath. "I found this last night. It's a letter my mom wrote about this place. She used to love it here and wanted me to know how important community is." With shaky hands, she opened the letter, her voice cracking as she read. Each word reminded everyone of the connections that ran deeper than anger or hurt. The parents looked at each other, faces softening. Jenna's heart swelled. The girl's bravery pulled at the suppressed longing they all felt for unity. Once the letter was finished, applause erupted, echoing off the walls. The girl beamed, and Jenna felt tears pricking at her eyes. It was moments like this that showed them all what they could accomplish together. They were more than their worries, more than their struggles. They were family, bound by shared stories and histories. As Jenna stepped back, the realization hit her like a warm wave. This wasn't just a series of events, it was a movement, a reclaiming of what was theirs. But then, a heavy weight settled in her stomach. Would they have enough time to harness this energy and make it last? Before she could catch her breath, someone shouted, "We need a theme for the picnic." Ideas erupted at once, everyone buzzing with suggestions. But one voice, louder and clearer, cut through. "What about our story, our future?" Jenna felt her heart race. It was perfect. It encapsulated everything they had fought for. But as the excitement wrapped around her, she couldn't shake the gnawing thought. How would the council respond? Would they welcome this new spirit? Or would they try to snuff it out? As the meeting continued, Jenna looked around at the faces filled with excitement and fearlessness. Could they truly steer the tide? The clock was ticking, and the picnic was approaching fast. Hope surged within her, mingled with an urgency that felt palpable. What would happen when they finally stood up to the council? Together, the thought sent a chill down her spine. With so much at stake, the question lingered in the air, pressing closer with every heartbeat. Would their unity hold firm in the storm to come? The buzz of conversations filled the hall as Jenna's thoughts raced. She watched as groups formed, laughter bubbling like a pot on the stove. There was an energy in the air that she'd never felt before, a potent mixture of hope and nervous excitement. But somewhere deep inside, doubts still gnawed at her. What if this was fleeting? What if the council's resistance put a sudden halt to their plans? "Jenna," Tessa called, her voice breaking through Jenna's spiral of worry. "Check out these decorations we found for the picnic." Imagine the kids' faces. With a deep breath, Jenna forced herself to focus on the present. Tessa laid out streamers that shimmered like sunshine and playful banners painted with faux flowers. Jenna made her way over, a smile breaking through her concerns. "These are perfect. The kids are going to love this." As they worked together, Jenna couldn't help but feel a spark of inspiration. Maybe this gathering would awaken the dormant spirit of the community. Maybe it would ignite those who felt lost or unheard. She glanced around at the familiar faces. Neighbors who had once only offered polite nods on the street were now laughing and sharing secrets. It felt like building a bridge, one connection at a time. But just as the laughter seemed to swell like the tide, a sound cut through the stern opening of the community hall doors. A few members of the council stepped inside, their posture rigid, faces shadowed by disbelief. Jenna's heart sank as the vibrant atmosphere turned tense. "What's going on here?" the council president, Mr. Hayes, asked, his brow furrowed. "We weren't informed of any meetings today." The room fell silent. Jenna felt a lump in her throat, wanting to choke on the words she needed to speak. This was what she feared. All these dreams hanging in the balance, threatened by authority that loomed like dark clouds. "We're just preparing for our picnic," Jenna managed to say, striving to sound confident. "We hope to bring everyone together, to celebrate our community." Mr. Hayes crossed his arms, his expression unyielding. "Celebration? Is this a way to divert attention from the council's decisions? You know we won't allow any event that goes against our regulations." Those words dropped like heavy stones into the pit of Jenna's stomach. She glanced at Tessa, who had gone pale but stood tall. Behind them, she could feel the crowd's anxiety swell. A whisper spread through the room. Voices began to murmur discontent. Some looked at Jenna, as if desperately seeking reassurance. Others felt the urge to stand up, to finally voice their concerns. Jenna felt the weight of their collective fear, but also their hope. "Wait." A voice rose from the back. It was the quiet man Jenna had recalled from last night. "This isn't just about the picnic. It's about our community finding strength together. If we can't gather, how do we show that we matter?" The room buzzed with agreement. Jenna's heart raced. Maybe this was the moment they needed, a breaking point that could shift the tides of their destiny. She took a step forward, emboldened by the quiet man's words, ready to advocate for their collective vision. "Let us show them that we're more than just names on a council meeting agenda," she shouted. "Let us remind them we're a family, we're a community. Together we can make them listen." As cheers erupted, Jenna felt the energy surge back into the room. Hope danced alongside them. But would the council stand firm against this wave? Would they bend or break under the pressure of a united voice? Jenna looked towards the council members, determination burning in her chest. Would they finally hear what was being said? Would their community stand firm in the face of opposition? The challenge unveiled itself, and as the energy pulsed, questions lingered thick in the air. What would it take to carve their future? Would this be the moment of truth? The air crackled with tension. Jenna stood at the forefront of a sea of faces that mirrored her own determination. She scanned the crowd, searching for a flicker of courage in her neighbors, those she had waved to or exchanged pleasantries with but had never truly known. Yet now, they were poised as one, united against the shadows of authority. "Don't back down," cried Tessa from Jenna's side, her voice fierce. The rallying cry jolted something deep within Jenna, sparking her to lean further into this moment. "They need to see the spirit of our community." Mr. Hayes frowned, his gaze rifling through the people in the hall. "Listen, this is not how things operate. There are rules for a reason." His voice dropped, full of condescension. "This is a place for order, not a playground for your ambitions." As his words hung in the air, Jenna could feel the resolve in the room flip like a freshly stirred pot. She turned slightly, trying to catch the eyes of those behind her. They were anxious but not broken. There was strength simmering under the surface, waiting for someone to ignite it further. "Mr. Hayes," Jenna's voice rang out, sharper than it felt. "Doesn't a community thrive because of its people? Isn't it our responsibility to nurture one another? If we follow every rule without question, where does that leave our spirit?" The murmurs grew louder, and she could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Voices joined hers, each one building like a wave crashing against the shore. "We want to celebrate. We want to come together." Each sentiment connected the crowd further, weaving a tapestry of unity through shared dreams. Jenna noticed the young man who had first spoken, his eyes glimmering with passion. "Can't we make room for both order and joy?" he questioned, a surge of hope threading through his words. "We want to feel seen, to feel like we belong here." Beneath the growing clamor, Jenna saw a shift in Mr. Hayes' expression. The hard lines around his mouth softened for just a moment, flickering doubt replacing certainty. Jenna seized that moment. This was her chance to push further. What if we found a way to gather that respects regulations while still allowing us to connect? She suggested, breathless and fervent. What if we set up an event that actually brings everyone together under guidelines? We need to break bread, share stories. SNT that the essence of a healthy community? A ripple of agreement spread through the hall, swaying like branches in a gentle breeze. She looked around, seeing passionate faces light up with possibility. Mr. Hayes hesitated, exchanging glances with the other council members. The tension was thick, like the final moments before a storm. Would they bend to the will of the people? Or would they remain steadfast in their rigidity? This isn't just about a picnic, Jenna continued, her voice softening. It's about reminding each other that we belong, that our dreams matter. Just then, a woman from the back stepped forward, her eyes glistening. I moved here alone with my children. No family, no friends. I need this community to feel alive, to feel like home. A wave of emotion swelled. The vulnerable honesty of her words broke barriers. Jenna could see the tapestry being woven even tighter. Let us make our home a reality, shouted Tessa, fists raised high. Let us be a part of this space together. A rush of energy surged through Jenna, intertwining hope and fear. The council members exchanged increasingly uncertain looks. Would they stand down? Would they reimagine their role in the thriving heart of the community? As the hall echoed with voices of solidarity, Jenna took a deep breath, realizing they were teetering on the edge of something beautiful or something that could simply fall apart. And then, just as Mr. Hayes opened his mouth, the door swung wide, revealing a familiar elderly woman, clutching a bouquet of wildflowers. She had been a quiet fixture in the community, but now her presence ignited a spark as she stepped forward. I have something to say. Jenna's heart raced. What would this woman bring to light? The room fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. Everyone turned their eyes to the elderly woman, her kind face glowing in the dim light of the hall. The bouquet of wildflowers seemed vibrant against the dull backdrop of the meeting. Good evening, everyone, she started, her voice soft but steady. I'm Mrs. Larkin. She glanced around the room, her eyes landing approvingly on Jenna. I've watched this community grow over the years, and I've seen it face challenges, just like the one we're discussing tonight. Jenna held her breath. Would Mrs. Larkin support their plea for connection, or would she reflect the authority they were up against? The elderly woman took a single step forward, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the flowers. I moved to this town when I was young, just like some of you. I had come from a broken home, filled with chaos and fear. I spent my teenage years feeling lost and alone. But then something unexpected happened. A neighbor, a stranger really, reached out to me. Mrs. Larkin smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She invited me to a community gathering, just a simple potluck. At first I was hesitant. I didn't think I deserved to belong. But that gathering, it changed my life. Suddenly, I was surrounded by people who cared. They embraced me for who I was, not where I came from. Whispers of recognition rippled through the crowd. They listened, captivated by her words. Those simple moments, the laughter, the shared meals, that's what brought me back to life. It showed me that community isn't just a word. It's a feeling of belonging. She paused, letting the weight of her experience settle in the room. I know the rules are important and order matters. But rules without compassion can build walls. They can isolate us. Jenna felt a swell of emotion. Mrs. Larkin was suggesting what her heart had been yearning to express. The elderly woman continued. A community thrives when we choose to embrace one another. It becomes a family where everyone is valued, where everyone has a voice. Let us blend our dreams with our responsibilities. Let us build a picnic, a festival, whatever it takes to knit our hearts together. The crowd began to murmur in agreement, faces brightening, the previous doubts slowly lifting. Jenna could feel the tide shifting. There was a collective understanding that began to ripple through the room, a realization that this was no longer just about a simple gathering. It was about forging connections that could weave the fabric of their community anew. Mr. Hayes shifted uncomfortably, the lines of his face creasing deeper as he absorbed the heartfelt words. Jenna could see the hesitation giving way to contemplation. Maybe he started, but Mrs. Larkin raised a hand, and the room fell silent again. "I know change is hard," she said gently, "but we're all in this together. It takes courage to face our fears and embrace the unknown. Let us not allow fear to hold us back any longer." Jenna's heart raced. Mrs. Larkin's wisdom was like oxygen to a fire. She turned to her neighbors, their faces glowing with hope and possibility. They exchanged glances, each nod echoing a shared understanding that something bigger was at stake. Suddenly, Tessa stepped up. "Let us not just talk. Let us make it happen." "Yes," rang out another voice. "Let us celebrate the diversity in our community." The room erupted in cheers, the momentum building like a wave about to crash ashore. But Jenna felt a flutter of apprehension. This was her moment to solidify their intentions, to ensure they would not only find a way to gather but to make it meaningful. Just as she opened her mouth to suggest a date and location for the event, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness. Gasps rippled through the audience. In that moment of surprise, hearts raced. Had they crossed a threshold they weren't meant to tread? Jenna felt her stomach twist, the shadows creeping closer. Would their newfound resolve dim in the face of uncertainty? A voice boomed through the darkness, filled with confidence. "We may be in the dark, but we are not lost. Who's with me?" Her breath caught. Who was leading them now? Anxiety mingled with the glow of anticipation in her chest. She was ready, but what came next would determine everything. "Someone is testing our spirit." The lights flickered back on, illuminating the room filled with expectant faces. That voice had been Mr. Henderson, his presence always a beacon of light in darker moments. The crowd surged with energy, even amidst uncertainty. Jenna couldn't help but smile. He had always known how to rally them when hope seemed dim. "Let us take this moment," he continued, unwavering. "The darkness isn't here to intimidate us. It's a reminder of the light we all carry within." His eyes swept the room, each face reflecting determination and courage. "Let us reconfigure our vision," Jenna shouted, her heart racing as the crowd cheered in support of Mr. Henderson's words. "With the community center picnic, we can show the town that we exist beyond their doubts. This can be the launch of our journey." Comments flew back and forth, excitement bubbling like boiling water. Ideas poured forth. They discussed welcoming speeches, activities for kids, even a talent show. Laughter erupted as they pitched silly suggestions for contests and performances. A consensus took shape, a collective commitment to make this event shine. But Jenna's heart raced with a mix of exhilaration and fear. What if this momentum sputtered out? The fragility of their resolve was a shadow she could not deny. She took a deep breath, focusing on the faces of her community, their hopes, their fears, their fundamental desire for connection. Then Tessa grabbed her arm, her eyes bright with fervor. "We can't falter. This is our chance to breathe life back into our dreams." Another voice, this time from the back, echoed, "Let us meet every week. We'll keep pushing forward until the picnic." And so they did. Each gathering brought them closer. They brainstormed, collaborated, and united as voices joined together. With baked goods and potlucks, laughter filled the air, creating bonds that ran deeper than loneliness. Days turned into weeks, and Jenna felt lighter with every moment spent with her neighbors. Their laughter became the threads that stitched them together, a fabric of joy coursing through the room during rainy days and sunny afternoons. Finally, the day of the picnic arrived. It was a sight to behold. Bright colors filled the park, bustling with neighbors, friends, and families. Jenna stood at the entrance, catching her breath as laughter danced around her. From a distance, she saw Mr. Hayes hanging banners for the event, an unexpected ally now embracing the community's efforts. Jenna made her way through the festival. Everywhere she looked, she saw smiles. For every child running towards games, for every family enjoying meals together, she could feel their spirit rekindling. Moments of connection enforced their purpose. Each story shared over coffee echoed the beauty of community they had fought so hard for. And then it happened. Mrs. Larkin stepped on stage to address the crowd, a warm figure, brimming with wisdom and poise. Jenna's heart swelled with pride. This event isn't just a celebration of our survival. It's a celebration of who we are. Let us raise our voices and become the foundation of our future. Applause erupted. A few voices joined in, chanting, "We are strong. We are one." Tears filled Jenna's eyes as she surveyed her community, the faces no longer marked with uncertainty and shame, but shining with pride and connection. At that moment, the weight she had carried ebbed away. They had transcended the fears of the council and the shadows that once loomed. With each passing moment, they formed a vibrant tapestry of hope, determination, and love. Days later, their success would compel Mr. Hayes to advocate for their vision, leading to new support for the community center. Jenna felt her heart swell anew, knowing that every decision prompted by her voice carved pathways toward unbreakable bonds. Never again would she feel alone. This was her community, each individual piece coming together to create a whole, a family woven from resilience. Jenna had transformed, no longer a lost girl, but a beacon of hope for those she had once thought were unreachable. Their journey was just beginning, full of potential and promise. As she stood among the laughter and light, wrapped in the warmth of their unity, she realized their lives would continue to entwine together. Stepping back, Jenna looked at her friends, the laughter, the stories, and the love. She was finally home, and as the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue across the park, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning. Now more than ever, you need to take action." Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these transformative journeys. Your support truly makes the difference. Comment below about your feelings and reactions to this incredible ending. Let us grow our community together. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see the story of hope and transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support matters.